This is the June 25th special meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Ms. Alcantara, are there any public comments? There are no registered public comments, so the board will go into closed meeting as authorized by the Open Meetings Act for the sections listed on our agenda, and we'll return shortly. All right, the board is returning from executive session. Are there any motions?
I'd like to make a motion to hire Troy Calavo as the new principal at MHS.
Is there a second? Thank you, Mr. Wynn. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Robb. Is there a discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstained? Motion carries. This concludes the special meeting. We have 1 minute till 6, so give me just a second.
Turned over.
Just
turned over.
All
You're
right.
good.
This is the June 25th regular meeting of the Montgomery Independent School District Board of Trustees. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Tonight, I'd like to ask Mr. Paul Cameron to offer our invocation.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for watching over us so far this summer and for keeping us safe. We ask that you please continue to guide this board and our administrators as we face some challenges in the year to come. Lord, please bless us and help us to keep you in the forefront of our minds. We ask that you watch over all of our children, that you keep them safe this summer so that they can return healthy and ready to start another year in this wonderful and faithful community of Montgomery, Texas. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. All right, Dr. Ruffin, are there any special recognitions or presentations this evening?
We have none this evening, no sir.
All right, hearing no special recognitions, we'll move into public input on federal program grants.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Okay, great. All right, so tonight we are going to share with some information with you about our federal programs use of funds plan. And this is an opportunity for us to also receive public input on our plan. And we'll talk at the end of the slideshow how we can submit some of that public input if there is no one here to give public input tonight. So just to kind of give some background, each year we are eligible to receive some federal grants. To be able to receive those federal grants, we have to develop a plan on how we're going to use those funds. And then we also solicit information and feedback from the community on how we're using those funds. And then after we get all of that feedback, we make some adjustments to the plan, and then we submit that application for final approval. So one of the things to remember about our federal grants, most of them come with what's called supplement, not supplant. And so what this means is if you are already spending district general funds on an activity or maybe something that's required by the state that you have to do, you cannot use this money for that purpose. This money is for to go above and beyond that. So to go to enhance and expand programs or services that you might offer. So that is what that part is about. Title I is one of the grants that we apply for. Title I is for improving basic programs, and basically this is for targeting students from low-income families. And so when we look at that, there's a certain percentage that we look at for each campus to see the number of students who qualify for maybe free and reduced lunch. And depending on that percentage, a campus may qualify or not. Next year, we will have 4 campuses being served through Title I. Those campuses include Lincoln Elementary, Montgomery Elementary, Stewart Creek Elementary, and our new Creekside Elementary. And then each campus determines the best way for them to use those Title I funds. So this is the amount that we are allocated. We are eligible for $834,111. And this is how it is split up. So at district level, there's a percentage that we reserve to help with district-wide parent engagement, support of homeless students, and then also to go towards a percentage of salaries that help monitor and manage the federal programs. There are some indirect costs that go back to the district just for covering overall fees that go along with managing programs, and then campuses get the majority of those funds that are then distributed. So this is how the breakdown is between the 4 campuses. You see each campus is a different allotment. That allotment is based on the number of students at that campus, and so that's how it's determined. But basically each campus, they get to make this own determination, but it pretty much comes down to 3 different categories. They put it towards some salaries, which may go towards support personnel on campuses, instructional coaches, interventionists, maybe some support paraprofessionals. They make that determination on their campus. They will also use it to support professional development, and then parent engagement and any supplies that go along with any of those activities. Title II is another federal program we are eligible for. The purpose of this is to increase student achievement. And the way you increase student achievement is to have effective educators. And so to have effective educators, you usually pour into professional development and that type of support. So a lot of the funding in Title II goes to supporting programs and supporting professional development in those areas. And so as a district, we are eligible for $191,641. And from this, the district's plan is to support curriculum and intervention planning. And this can look in different ways. It might be supplemental pay for teachers who are coming off contract time to come in and do some specific curriculum planning. If we are pooling them during the day and we need a substitute, it can cover the cost of the substitute while we pool them to do some of that work. Or there are other times, like we have the new teacher mentor program, the MINT program you've heard about before. If we're pulling them off contract hours, it can help support that as well. We do some additional stipends in the area of special education. We have some high need areas that helps us attract some employees to come to the area. And then if they serve in a high need classroom like a CARES classroom or a BEST program that may kind of have some additional extra duties, it will help support those classrooms as well. This also covers support for our MTSS or RTI. That's our multi-tier system of support. So academic support, behavior support, intervention type things with that. And then, of course, professional training and materials that go along with all of those programs. Title IV is for these 3 areas. So providing students access to a well-rounded education. So you might think like advanced academics or fine arts, these extension type things. It can also improve academic outcomes by maintaining safe and healthy students. So we really focus on that safe and healthy portion of that, or to improve the use of technology. This grant, we are eligible for $59,157, and this is how we have that in each of the different categories. For well-rounded students, some of this money goes towards supporting some of our advanced academics opportunities, especially some of our summer programs, college and career readiness. For supporting safe and healthy students, we do a lot of additional counselor supplies, some of our character education, some of our kind of tier 2 character interventions that we do, and then behavior intervention training as well. And then to support effective use of technology, we do some cybersecurity audits to make sure that our technology is secure in the district. So I'm going to mention ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, because for the last few years, we have been having to plan for this money and how to spend this money. But this is just a reminder that these are two pots of money that are going away. That finishes up at the end of this summer, so we are dwindling towards the end of these funds, and they will not be used to support the 24-25 school year. So the next part of this is to get that feedback on this plan. There is a link for a survey on our district website. When you go to the district website right now, every time you go, there's going to be a little pop-up, hey, do our survey. And so it's going to remind you every time you go there for the next week. And so if you click on the link there, it'll take you to the survey, and it'll give you the opportunity to look at the slideshow. And then also, if you have any suggestions on how we need to spend the money, we're open to those suggestions. It's already been open for about 24 hours. We've already gotten some feedback on it, which we appreciate. One of the things that comes up every year is increasing teacher pay. And as you saw, the totals that we received from these funds was really not an area that we can do for increasing overall teacher pay. But we do look at some of those areas where we can support some positions or some stipend type things in that area. So if you have any feedback, suggestions on there, this is a great way to provide that, or this is an opportunity tonight too for public input if anybody's signed up for public input on the program. Any questions?
All right. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you.
Busby. Appreciate it. All right, Ms. Alcantar, are there any registered public comments? There are no registered public comments, so we will move forward to the consent agenda. Is there a board member that wishes to pull a consent agenda item for discussion? All right, hearing none, is there a motion on consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Any discussion? Hearing none, put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? The consent agenda carries as presented. Action items. Consider approval of purchase over $50,000 to purchase and install security film.
Mr. Brad Mansfield.
All right. Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, Dr. Ruffin. So in front of you in your board book is a proposal sent by a vendor, but I wanted to kind of tell you about the process we went through to do this. So previously, before I got here, there was a lot of work done with Huckabee in partnership with them, and also some district folks as well, including David Crow and Ricky Deary and Amanda and Davis and some other people, in case I missed you, sorry, to kind of make some recommendations on the security film package. So as you know, TEA requires us to have a certain component of windows that have to be filmed based on House Bill 3. The district decided to go a little above and beyond that with some of our exterior windows and film those. That is included in this scope of work. The total square footage came out to around 21,000, 20,000, around that proposal for the amount of square footage done. They also decided, TEA didn't give us much guidance on, okay, here's the amount of thickness you should have, here's the type of film you should have, should you use tint, shouldn't you use tint? So they said it just has to be entry resistant. So with that, doing some research, Chief Deary did some research on that and called around some other districts, and the District Safety Committee was involved in that as well, and they reviewed it. They went with a 14 mil product to recommend. You can go as high as 23 mil, and David and I and Ricky and Sergeant Kendall felt that, and it's almost like a window in itself. So it's pretty substantial. We believe that we kind of landed in the middle. Some districts are doing 8 mil. Most of them, the standard right now, and talking to a lot of these vendors, has been around 13, 14 mil. What we chose through this scope of things, and Stuart Campbell with Huckabee kind of helped put the schematics out to these vendors on buy board. And they came back with some proposals for us. We feel like that MPRO gave us the best money for our value. And also talking to some of their references, I called a couple of schools they put on their references and districts they've worked with, came back really positive. They've worked with our district previously, and in talking with the sales guy, I had a lot of questions about support during, after, before. He was asking me the right questions, I felt like, is access to the buildings and scope of work. You know, will we have access to the building after hours if need be? Can our crews work long hours if need be? And so those were questions that I felt like these guys are committed to getting it done. So with that said, we are asking for action on this for a cost of $533,598. And of course, any questions that anybody on the board has right now, certainly happy to entertain.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
If you look on this proposal, it has $25,000 in contingency dollars.
Yes, sir.
Does that money come back to the district if it's not used?
From what, yes, and what he said, typically on the jobs that they do put an overage in there, and that amount ended up being what he calculated on our job, could be up to $13,000 coming back to the district. I take that with a grain of salt. That's outside of that contingency, but it is, when the square footage, and they haven't seen the site yet, they base it on schematic design, that's cushion is put in there, and they're one of the ones that did put that cushion in there in case there's windows that need to be filmed, or as the scope of the project, we're going through it, we decide, hey, there's a couple more windows here we need to consider. We have that as a buffer. But he doesn't feel like, we certainly don't have to spend that in that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is there a longevity of the product itself, or?
It's a 10-year warranty on this one, the Matico product. The other ones, I think, one of the ones on there, Armor was like 15-year, I believe. And Armor was significantly more expensive through our 3M product.
So would it have to be replaced, or that's just the warranty they're giving?
That's the warranty.
Okay.
And the longevity of it, it depends on how many lawnmowers spit rocks at it.
Okay.
Would be a big component of it, but I think, Stuart, did you have any background on that as far as how long they last and what they're looking for?
It's really how they treat it. I mean, it's much the same as when you're doing a building. It can last 20 years or 50 years, depends on the upkeep of it. So if you have someone scrubbing your windows with Brillo, it's not going to last as long. If they're gentle and not scratched.
And I think that's some things we can ask the vendor as we're installing it. They've installed, all these vendors have installed Matico products, but I think we need to ask that question about what products are we going to use as a district on there to make sure that it does have some longevity.
I've got a couple questions. What level of entry resistance is this?
So 14 mil, when you talk about level, like what measure you, like time?
The amount of time it takes to get through it, and then what level, I mean, can they shoot the window out with this, or is it something that they can just kick in and break or hit with a hammer? What are we looking at?
So the mills on that, the more mill, the more time. None of them are bulletproof or even bullet resistant. So they're not designed to stop a bullet. They're designed to, if a bullet enters into it, then it's going to give you time to break, like they have to break through the glass with a bat, with a golf club, with their gun butt or whatever, kick it out. It gives them time. The 8 mils, I think, we're running around 3 to 4 minutes, I think, and some of the 14, 15 mil, we're running anywhere from 7 to 8 minutes. 5 and up.
Yeah.
So
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and they've got several different demonstrations that they have, and as you mentioned, it's not bulletproof glass, but you cannot sit there, you can't put enough rounds through it to where you can just shoot the glass out. You can put rounds through it, you can take baseball bats to it, you can take the butt of the rifle to it, you can take axes to it, and it's still gonna be 3-6 minutes of hacking away at one window
To get in.
to get in. And again, I'm going to echo a few things here. And Mr. Mansfield, I want to commend you because we have 5 quotes, 3?
we had 5 quotes.
Good 5. And he spent a significant amount of time in connecting with me and making sure that he went through these quotes, each one of them, to make sure that, once one company said the square footage was 19,000, one said it was 14,000. What's going on? So kudos to you for making sure you're doing due diligence in that. And I also want to say kudos to Huckabee for walking alongside of us, because it's an overwhelming thing to try and understand across all of our campuses where this needs to go and what would be the most effective places for it to be. And so, I mean, Huckabee has been with us alongside us and brought in very, very well respected and very decorated safety and security specialists that would sit down with us and meet with us and talk through this is what needs to go where. And so I'm very pleased with the process that we've come to get to this point.
Is this, one quick question, is this tinted or is it clear?
It's clear. I mean, there'll be a little bit of a tint to it just because of the thickness of it, but it's not, you can still see through it.
So in our, I slaughter this every time, in our vestibules?
I call them secure front entries, so I don't have to say vestibule. Right.
Be between, once you come in the front doors, will it be in that area so they can't access classrooms past that point?
So one of the things that we're able to do, because it's safety related, is we don't have to specify and exactly dictate, say exactly where this is gonna go, because it's part of the safety and security that we have. Anything dealing with the safety and security, requirements under TEA, they're not subject to open records requests. So we don't want to be able to put out our blueprint and say, here's where all of our interest-resistant film is and where it's not. I can tell you that common sense, right, in terms of like, so these back windows here, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to, because TEA requires those doors and then only the windows right next to those doors. Mm-hmm. Well, the whole wall is glass, right? So there's some common sense to what would be done and what would not be done. But in terms of the specifics, where and locations, we'd be happy to talk through that in closed session, but not publicly.
Makes sense.
I can provide those schematics in closed session if you want to see them. But TEA does just the window right next to it, and their thinking was they can reach around if it's the window right there and open the door, but there's other windows that can be impacted as well. So I think the district did a good balance in deciding what was going to be placed on there.
Perfect. Thank you. He answered it.
I had just one comment. Officer Edelman's in the back. We did review this information on the safety subcommittee last week, I believe, and he and Sarge did a wonderful presentation on this. I just wanted to kind of note that out for the record that, it's been thoroughly vetted. It's been thoroughly thought over. Mr. Mansfield, I think you've done a great job as well. So it's about the second time I've heard about this information from Brad, and I feel really comfortable with what they've done. So,
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? We do need an action item. It's a vote on it. So, is there a motion?
A motion to approve the purchase and install of security film for Montgomery ISD campuses and buildings.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Is there a second?
I will second that.
Mr. Robb, is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. That motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Action item 7B, consider approval of another purchase over $50,000, iReady renewal as presented.
All right, good evening. So normally a renewal we would put under consent agenda because it's just continuing a current practice. However, this one had a slight change for next year, so we wanted to be sure and bring that before you for approval. So majority of the expenses is to renew our current program that we are using for intervention in both reading and math. In reading, we are using it for K-5, and in math, we were using it for K-8. And so at the end of this year, we started reviewing what we were using in grades 6 through 8 for reading intervention and evaluating that program. And then we brought in this vendor as well for some comparisons and looking at the different results that we've had at the K-5 level using that program. And based on that feedback, the recommendation was made to switch from the other reading program to this reading program. That way we would be aligned, K-8, in the programs that we were using. So that's the change for this year that we're presenting. So the recommendation is to approve the purchase of iReady for reading and math materials as presented. Any questions?
How many years do we know how many years we've been using it in our lower grades?
I do not have the exact number of years. So this was something that after COVID, that the state provided some additional funding to get us started and supported the program. And this was, there were a few vendors that they approved for this purchase. And iReady was one of those. So it's been since COVID when we started implementing it.
Other questions? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to purchase the iReady renewal as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Any additional comments, questions? Hearing none, put it to a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Busby. All right, action item 7C, consider approval of an RFP for property and casualty insurance and workers' compensation from TASB Risk Fund. Mr.
Good
Davidson.
evening. So back in May, we put out an RFP for insurance for workers' comp and our property and casualty. And we did receive some interest back from a couple of companies that had reached out to get some more information from us. But when it came time for the proposals to come in, TASB was the only one that submitted to us. The insurance market is really tough for schools right now, and a lot of them just don't even want to deal with it. They don't want to take that risk on. We've used TASB for the last 5 years and probably even longer than that. But we were fortunate to get a quote from TASB, and for the workers' comp, we also received one from a company called Claims Administrative Services, but it was about $70,000 more than the TASB quote. So our recommendation would be to go with TASB for the property casualty and for the workers' compensation. Anybody have any questions on it?
And we're using TASB now,
Yes, sir.
and we've never changed, I guess, forever, right?
I'm not sure how far back we go with TASB. I know it's the last 5 years for sure, but
Do we typically have claims, Ben?
yes, sir. We usually have a few a year.
Any other questions for Mr. Davidson? Everyone that has, there's a little bit of a price tag with this, Mr. Davidson, right? So
Right.
We can afford it, correct?
We really don't have a choice, but yes.
That's a good way to.
We can't afford not to have it, really.
Insurance is pretty expensive, and so thank you for answering it that way. Any other questions?
Do we know what percentage it went up from previous?
It's about, went from 900 to about 1.1, so roughly 20%, maybe 18%.
And that's across the board for every person, I guess, on everything.
All right, other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to recommend approval of TASB Risk Fund as the district's property and casualty insurance and workers' compensation provider.
All right, thank you, Ms. Turner. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nguyen. Any other further conversation? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Davidson. And consider approval, you're sticking around, I see.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Consider approval for Budget Amendment 2.
This is our final amendment for the 23-24 year. Anytime we have to increase a functional spending category, we have to take it to the board. And so this amendment allocates the funds in the categories we need to close out our 23-24 budget.
Board members, any questions? All right, hearing none.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment number 2 as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. All those in favor? Wait, sorry. Discussion. Any further discussion? Sorry. All right, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Thank you. I think
Right.
that,
Thank you.
I think now that clears Mr. Davidson out, right?
Yeah, I can go
All
sit
right,
down now.
awesome.
Thank you.
And item 7E, consider approval for purchase over $50,000 for the junior high CTE computer labs.
Miss Amy Vance, come on down.
Okay, in your board book, we have, with that action item, we've also attached the quote that we have from Avanext. The reason why we're purchasing 4 computer labs, 2 at each campus, we are adding, whenever we went to a 7-period day at the junior highs, it increased our CT enrollment because the students unblocked their double-blocked courses that they had in 7th, 8th grade. So they have an academic period now, advisory period, and then they had an extra elective, which turned into CTE, which is more funding and building our programs. But all the kids really enjoyed the technology classes, so we had to add another course in the engineering and robotics that would require computer labs. So the new course at each, not a new course, but a new section and a new FTE at each is what we need the labs for from opening at that 7-period day. And we also had engineering classes where the students were using their devices, and it really didn't hold the software. So I wanted to purchase computer labs for each of those existing engineering classes so they could withhold the software that they needed to properly do the curriculum. So one's a new computer lab and one's just replacing, they were using their own devices and they need something that runs better. The reason why, if you're wondering why we use Avanex, in case those questions are coming, Avanex is local. They are on a buy board, but being on the buy board, they are local, and they have a contract with HP. You can see that on the first line. So HP is the company that the make of the computers, so they get a really good deep discount for these computers. We were looking at other places at about $200,000 for these computers. They're very high, I don't know the technology terms, the high processing system to run this engineering software and robotics software. So they're not just your normal everyday, we couldn't run them on the Chromebooks. So we got a really good discount using them. And then being local, if you can see there, we get it next day shipping and get them to deliver them. We're waiting till next budget year to purchase these on the 24 and 25, which starts July 1. So we have a month to get these up and running for the kids to use at both campuses. So timing was a really big issue with shipping. Since they were local, we can get them here the next day so we can start imaging and getting these ready for the kids the first day of school in August. So that was another reason. They're also really good with warranty work and replacing repairs because they're so close and nearby. They're very quick on warranty work with us, and so the district really likes to use this company. And it, like I said, it was also a really good price, which is why we chose Avanex. Do y'all have any questions?
The existing Chromebooks, are we gonna be able to use them for somewhere else? Or?
The Chromebooks is their personal devices.
Okay.
We didn't have them for the class. It was the Principles of Applied Engineering, which this class started 23 to 24. And so we're like, well, we're getting devices, that'll be fine. And as the year progressed, we realized there was stuff they couldn't do.
Okay.
So it was just 1 year of this course, they were using the district-issued devices. So it's their personal devices. And it just really wasn't enough, so I want to provide them with desktops and help them transition into the high school engineering courses as well. They're going to be using the same software and computers.
Okay.
I'm assuming that CTE funds are paying for these.
CTE funds are paying for this.
Mr. Rob, did you have a question?
I was asking if, or going to ask if these were going to remain in the class or if they were going to be going home with students, but.
They're desktops, they're not laptops. The longevity, we used to have laptops that had screens and keyboards, but the longevity of desktops are longer when they're plugged in and used every day for these type of computers. So we can get about 3 years on laptops or 5 years on desktops. So we try to invest in the desktops just for the longevity of replacing the labs.
All right. Any questions?
Is there a warranty on the actual desktop portion? I see a 4-year warranty, it looks like, for the screens. I was just curious if there was a warranty for
I think it's for everything. I don't think it's just the
Maybe is that
screens.
for everything, separate line item? Okay. I think that's right.
All right. Any other questions? Then is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the computer labs as presented, the purchase of.
Thank you, Mr. Rob. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. Further discussion? Put it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Vance. Action item 7F, consider approval of superintendent and board of trustee goals for 24 and 25.
So we've talked at our board workshop on June 4th. We've worked through these goals. We've used the previous year's goals as kind of the framework. And I just want to kind of read through, and we're going to talk about our strategic plan here in a minute. So these are in conjunction with the strategic plan. So as we lay out the strategic plan here in a little while, and the process we went through to refresh that, but this is for my evaluative process is we've got goals for the superintendent. We've also got goals that the board has adopted for themselves also. So I just want to read through them. But one deals with advocacy and advocating for Montgomery ISD and public education here the best possibly we can with collaboration with our state lawmakers, and then engaging with our community to make sure that they're informed of the things that we have to face on a daily basis within public education and some of the budget challenges that we face. The second goal reiterates the importance of bond oversight, and that's to ensure the commitments, the timelines, and projects are completed for the 2022 bond and keep the community informed and involved with the bond process. Third goal is implementing or aligning efforts that promote consistency across our campuses and programs, resulting in improving the learning experience for all students. And that was kind of a byproduct of some of the conversations and listening that I've done for that first 100 days, is there's just a lot of opportunities to make sure that we're being consistent in the things that we're doing, the programs, the things that we're providing our students across all of our campuses. And then we're going to look at the next goal, which is implementing strategies that invest in our staff and focus on improving employee compensation, retention, and culture. And then lastly, work in collaboration with the board to continue to build processes and procedures to ensure a high-functioning team of 8. So those are the superintendent-based goals. And then for the board, it mirrors those. It mirrors those. The first one is, again, promoting advocacy for Montgomery ISD, the commitment to the 2022 bond projects, the commitment to our staff and making sure that we're focusing on opportunities to improve their work experience, and the continue to build processes and procedures to ensure a high-functioning team of 8 by focusing on transparency, asking questions to gain understanding, and approaching every conversation respectfully.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Ruffin. And then also, board members, just to point out, under 8C, information item, we'll talk about board committees, and I think there'll be some kind of overlap with some of these goals in the board committees as well. Any questions for either the board goals or the superintendent goals? We've worked a lot on this work, on these things, so is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the 24-25 MISD district goals.
Thank you, Mr. Dennison. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed and abstained. Goals carry. Thank you very much. All right, we are through action items, and we're now into information items. Item 8A, strategic plan update. Dr. Busby.
Yes, I'm back. So strategic plan, this is a process we have been going through this school year to update the strategic plan. So we'll kind of review that process and then answer any questions. So our original strategic plan was started 3 years ago. It's in 2021 where we worked to develop those. And it was a 3-year plan. That plan consisted of 5 goals that were adopted by the school board at that time. And then after 3 years of implementation and the now new leadership, it was time for an update to the strategic plan. So in the fall of 2023, the school board reviewed those 5 goals, and they voted to continue with those same 5 goals. So these are the 5 categories, but I am going to review specifically each one of those. So goal 1 is on academic achievement, and it reads that MISD will provide a challenging curriculum, assess individual student achievement, and support efforts to ensure excellent academic performance. Now, we're not going to read every single KPI and performance objective and strategy tonight, but that's what goes along with each one of these goals as the additional details that would support the work to support this goal. Goal 2 is school safety, that MISD will vigorously enforce policies and procedures that promote a safe and orderly environment. Goal 3 is finance and operations, that will responsibly manage the use of financial and operational resources to sustain equitable funding that support academic excellence and to provide safe and efficient operations of the district. And goal 4 is on human capital, that MISD will recruit, support, develop, and retain highly qualified and effective personnel. And then goal 5, communications and customer service, that will provide proactive and frequent engagement with employees, parents, and community, and to ensure effective communication, superior customer service, and a strong culture within the district. So in order to update each of these goals, a task force was formed for each goal. That task force included members from the community, teachers, administrators, and they came together to meet and review each one of these goals and the details that go along with it and how to implement those goals. Some of the members were on the task force in 2021, so they were able to come back and revisit what we had done and then make recommendations on the progress that we had made. And then some of them were new volunteers that we had sent out and asked for volunteers to participate. And so each committee was in anywhere from 24 to 45 members, depending on which goal we were working on. In addition to those task force, we had a town hall meeting where we shared the information and had an opportunity to provide feedback. A survey was sent out, and then multiple committee meetings were had. In addition, Dr. Ruffin did his first 100 days and received feedback from teachers. We took the input that he received along his 100-day journey, as well as we were looking at the information. All of that feedback was used to revise, and so we looked at the different performance objectives and KPIs and determined, does this need to be revised and changed? Does this need to be deleted, or do we need to add new ones onto those goals? So then a draft strategic plan was created. And then the core team looked at all the pieces from the different task forces, and they put it together in one document for review. That was brought back to our senior leadership team meeting. It was also brought back to the school board last month for an opportunity to review. We appreciate the feedback that was given, and we took that information, that feedback, and made some final revisions to that document. And some of the feedback that we got were different things, like maybe we needed to add some additional language to cover some additional things like growing teachers, leadership pipelines. Did we look at safety? Did we talk about cell phone policies, DAEP? These are just some of the things we got some final feedback on that we made some slight revisions towards the end. So in your board book is the final strategic plan. This will launch with the start of the 24-25 school year and will last 5 years. There will be a link on the district webpage. So right now you can go to the bottom, you can click on the strategic plan. The old plan will be archived, so there'll be record there for anybody to look at and review what our old plan looked like, but then we will update this new one. So that's being worked on, and it'll be ready to launch in August at the beginning of the year. And just a reminder that this plan is dynamic, so it can be adjusted to fit the district's needs. So as we go through and review these throughout the years, if we need to adjust a goal, maybe we reached that goal and we want to increase it and push ourselves to reach the next level, we can make those adjustments along the way as needed. And so, again, you have the copy of the final. If there are any questions about any specific pieces of the document, our SLT members are here that are happy to answer any questions, or any questions about the process, we're happy to answer as well.
Strategic plan update. Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? A lot of work has gone in. Dr. Buzzy, thank you. Thank you to everyone that's contributed to this. It seems like a very organic grassroots process, so thank you very much.
Dr. Fuller, I would like to add a few things here. So it is a very robust plan, right? There's a lot involved in it, and the committees spent significant amount of time going through this and refining it, and really thinking critically about making sure that it's still aligned with the direction of our district. And I want to point out something it's pretty outstanding and unique to Montgomery ISD is even within our board agenda. Every action item has goal 1, goal 2, aligned with goal 3, goal 4. All of the work that y'all do is focused on these goals. And so I think that's something that needs to be celebrated, and that the intentionality behind that is really important to maintain, and that these goals really are what's driving the decisions and driving the conversations and the things that you as a board are reviewing and approving also.
Great point, awesome. And to the community members that are out there, what we see here, Dr. Busby said, we're not going to look through every strategy, every KPI, but it is available. The strategic plan is up on our website, and I think there's a lot of great work in the strategies and the KPIs that y'all have done. And that, Dr. Ruffin, I would also say, I think that level of detail is very unique to Montgomery as well. So, all right. Thank you. Next information item, 8B, bond update.
All right. Good evening again. So before I get started on the bond update, I want to first of all say that I've been here since May 8th, and so It has been an amazing just entry into this district with the people that I get to work with on a daily basis. So a lot of this work you're going to see today, there's a lot of people in this room and even outside of this room and back there that started this work long before I got here. So I wanted to acknowledge a couple people, and that's Joe and David from the district team here that are on site every day, working at all the OACs, meeting with contractors, problem solving, pushing back, frustrating the other people in the room sometimes as they frustrate us sometimes, but that's okay. But I also wanted to point out, and for their work, thank you guys. I also want to put out Huckabee is here, Brendan, and then also Emin, and Devin is here as well from Huckabee, but Emin from Pogue. These guys, and these two projects specifically we're going to talk about first, have endured a lot of questions that for me as being new, and I would say the same for the other two that are back there. And also Chris that was here earlier, the design is a really tough part of this whole thing. And he was here to lead that process. So I wanted to acknowledge them for that. It's been a great 7 weeks, 8 weeks here, and Dr. Ruffin has been patient as well with me and some questions that I've asked and things. And so, and it doesn't go without saying that you guys approved this and got this bond going through, and it's some good things that you guys are going to see at the end of this. And so I'm extremely excited and happy to be here on this team. So I wanted to say that without gushing too much. So real quick, a project status update on there. I took some of the other ones, I think you guys have seen this before, took some of the other ones out that are 100% done, and that was a lot of work done by some people in this room and also the board as well on that. But where we are with Creekside, Lake Creek are the two big ones, and as you can tell, Creekside is a little bit behind Lake Creek. Lake Creek's rock and rolling. We'll look at some of those pictures right now, or here in a little bit. Creekside's a little bit behind, but I think the question that I ask at every OAC, and I think everybody on my team and the district's teams ask is, will we be done, and what's the substantial completion date? And we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. And then the CTE center is rolling along. I think you can see that big crane back there and putting steel up. We're almost done with the slab pours. MHS, you can see, is moving right along. Again, that's a 2-summer project. The stadium renovations, we're still in the design phase of that, and we're going to be bringing y'all some, probably around October, the GMP for that. And then the renovations at the triplets, phase 1 of that, and then the Keenan flooring, which is really rocking and rolling. If you've ever seen one of those flooring machines, pull up old tile, it's pretty fun to watch. So that's a status update on that. So Creekside Elementary, here we'll see the flyover that we get provided by Emin. Emin likes driving this drone around on a daily or weekly basis. He does enjoy that. So you can see Creekside right here. Parking lot, everything's poured there. We added some sod there recently. We're going to be hydro-seeding around the school. There is edge sod put up to keep the dirt from washing away. The fencing has started this week. This was taken on Monday, I believe, or last week it was actually taken. There has been some fencing started around the detention pond. There's actually shade structures up in the playground. You can kind of see where they've kind of started wiping away some of that dirt there to start with the playground. And then right next to it, as we're hovering over right now, would be the pre-K playground. And then there's the cafeteria drop-off, chiller units, generators up there. And then right here are the canopies for the bus drop-off. And those are set to be installed. And I believe that flat work right there, that concrete has been poured as well. They got one more hinge slab to be poured there. And then you can see in the very front the canopy as well. And you'll see the extended canopy there on that. So that's the flyover inside. As you guys know, this entire school is terrazzo. I think Joe in maintenance loves that idea. As a construction component, it's very difficult and dirty, and it's holding us up in some areas. So, but it is a beautiful floor, and you can even see it right there in the cafeteria. That was one of the last things they poured. It really is a pretty product. And then you can see some more terrazzo right there. You'll see the hallways right here, and if you look down there, you'll see the P-lam on each side of those hallways and then the windows. On those Pogue and I and Emmett talked about this. There was tack strips up on the top of those, and what we have those tack strips for is the teachers can hang out student work up there. We only had them on one side, and I think that was based on the design, but Pogue agreed to add them to the other side too. So students, we can hang those up on both sides. I think that's a good thing for Metro Clean as well, because sometimes teachers and people, principals and everybody can put Scotch tape up there and it's hard to get off, and it can kind of leave some residue on there. This gives them an opportunity just to stick that up there and it doesn't damage anything. The picture on the right up there, and maybe your left or my right up here, is a ceiling component, which kind of looks like a faux wood. That product is probably one of the last things that's going to be finished up. They've installed the railings for that, and they'll start putting that stuff up. Once you see that up, it'll change the entire look of the inside of that building, and that's in some of the high ceilings there. It's a really pretty product. You'll see bathrooms here. The bathroom tile are in. There is, I think in all the bathrooms, there is an epoxy flooring. If not, it's tile. And then you'll see the tiles up on those. That's a big step in moving things forward. Inside there, you'll see some of the fixtures being installed. And again, that's a big step as well. And you'll notice that they are protecting all the flooring there, terrazzo or whatever it may be, because we still got quite a bit of substantial construction going on. There's lots of trades on that job every day, and they're rocking and rolling. So the carpeting is in most of the rooms, if not all of them by now, and also some of the cabinetry. Doors are in. The glass is being installed on the doors. If it's not all the way complete as of today, it's getting close. And then they are protecting that carpeting in there with a kind of a saran wrap product, because again, there's a lot of dust still happening, and we want to protect that. And then the last is the concrete that they had recently poured right there on the exterior. That's where that is right there. Any questions on Creekside? Outside of the road? So we did a flyover, and this is actually, Emmett actually did a flyover as of today of the road, because I wanted you guys to see. So just a little update on that. I've been talking with Chad Rochester. He is the general contractor, or the project manager, with C.E. Barker being, the contractor for the concrete and the pavement. Today, he gave me an update, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But they're basically on 7 days a week now, and they're working close to 24 hours a day. I know it's better late than never, but they are starting that project, and they're rocking and rolling. And just pray every night that the rain holds off. There's sometimes, as farmers and people who grow hay, they want the rain. We've had plenty of it until we get this road built, if we can sacrifice a little bit so we can get that road built. So I'll go ahead and let the drone fly over, let you guys see it right here. This is the loop right there, the traffic circle that's going to happen at the connection at Lake Creek Boulevard. I think that's the name of that. So, and then you'll see here that big, you have the dirt around it, that's a detention pond, and I think that's 30,000 cubic feet. That's the biggest of the 3 detention ponds. They have 2 more to build that actually add up to about 10,000 total. This one took about a week and a half to dig, or 2 weeks to dig, so the other one should go pretty quick. And then you'll see the kind of the track looks like a big old truck is driven there. That's both sides of the road. So the trees are in the middle as a median, and the road goes down. You'll see kind of a side road there that veers to the left right next to that pond. That's construction traffic road. So to the right is actually where the road continues. They've done all the site work, got it ready to go. They're adding in some additional fill and preparing it for hopefully concrete here pretty soon. I'll show you that on the schedule. That pond right there, I think you guys know that as a landmark. And Emmett took extremely slow footage here. But as we move into the woods again, now we're entering the first drive to the parking lot. So that first entry right there is where you would turn left to go into access the parking lot there. That's where most buses will drop, is in that area right there on the left-hand side. Then you could continue straight to the parent drop-off right there on that side. So that's where we are as of this morning on that. The good news is that they're working. We've had good weather. They've made substantial progress. You can see in some of this that they have put in a lot of the drainage work. They put in culverts. They've got all that set up and ready to get some forms set and some things going down. And I know there's a whole lot of work in between that. But he has actually taken that dirt and put it on his site as well, so we don't have to worry about that being on any site near us. But So this is an updated schedule that I got today, and Randall, PM, Chad, gave this to me. I asked him for this to update it. This is the latest and greatest version of this. So those of you that may be familiar with construction, I think the date that I was looking at is 8/1/24. In all reality, it's kind of scary putting up a due date that they kind of say this is when we feel like it's going to be done, because things happen, right? This is a little bit of good news. It is very fast and accelerated, but his reality in talking with Chad is he feels like probably 8/9 is more of an accurate date. The contractor, Barker, is talking about 8/17. So he's pushing back on that, and they're back and forth on it. And so the contractor actually provided this timeline today. So after our conversation, and he sends me this, I said, hey, that's an aggressive timeline. Is this wishful thinking? And he said he thinks that after talking with him some more, that if things work out and everything's perfect, we might have a road that is ready for at least complete by 8/1. Now, when we want to drive on it, could be around holding off as long as possible. 7-day cure is aggressive. I think it would be better longer than that, but we'll see how that turns out. I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on what concrete does and what concrete doesn't do. I would probably lean on some guys back here if you have those kind of specific questions. My biggest concern is, can you get us a road? Any questions on that before I maybe answer the next question, which is, what if we don't have a road? So is that the next question that y'all are all wondering? If we don't have a road in place, we have worked with Pogue and not Randall at all, but Pogue, about what can we do to do something temporary. We have a temporary construction road that we've been using back for. That road's pretty. If you've driven on it, it's not awful, right? But for cars, it wouldn't be great. And everyday traffic on it from regular, I guess, community people, it's not good to have a car running on that. So we had a couple options. We had an asphalt that we could drop down, like a heated asphalt, what we'd have to do is a topping on it, put the asphalt down. That would run us about $500,000. A chip and seal is what we had talked about also as an option, and if you know what that is, it's when they put down a limestone product or whatever product, and they put a hot oil over the top of it, and it kind of seals and binds it all together. It's not meant to be permanent. It's not meant to be like a well-constructed road, but it was a little bit less expensive, but still pretty expensive, and that was about $100,000 less. Something that we had just researched and Emmett came back with and Poe came back with was this temporary road that's a rubber click-together road. And it's almost like people use it in logging communities or when they need a temporary road. You can drop this thing down on pretty much anything. And it would create a road that is smooth, somewhat traction we've been assured that it's pretty good. It's called a mega track. United Rentals could give that to us. When we first researched it, they gave us a quote. The quote did not include installation, which we thought it was turnkey. They came back to us and gave us an installation cost. That's running about $130,000, and that would be for a month rental of this. They put it down, come pick it back up, and that would get us from Lake Creek to the site. And there would probably have to be a little bit of site work done to maybe adjust the grade there for some of our buses. The district team, along with Shelby and whoever else wants to join into that conversation from the district, would talk about what egress and ingress would look like, where we would send buses if it came to that point. We're going to go ahead and plan for no road. I can tell you that. We're going to plan and have something in place ready to go in case we can't get this done. The good news about the mega track is there's not as much lead time that you have to have. Like asphalt is going to take a little bit of time to get the crews together, to prep it, to put it down. It's just more lead time. With the mega track, it's basically about a 2 weeks that we heard them talk about. Emmett, it's about a 2-week time frame. It's about 7 days, so they can drop it off. We give them notice, they bring it. So we can hold off till as long as possible to see how the road's going with that option. So that definitely sounds better than $500,000, but it is an option moving forward. And it wouldn't feel as bad, I guess, having to take that down and tear up a road we just paid all that money for, when we can just take it down and give it back to them. So, any questions on Creekside, the road, anything up to this point?
The mega deck, how wide would that road be?
Was it 30 feet? 20 feet? 20
Is that
feet.
going to be sufficient enough to get going and coming traffic?
So
that we feel
right
comfortable with?
now, it's 20 feet, that road.
We've talked about leaving it as is, a temporary road, and it's 20 feet wide. We've also talked about extending it an additional 5 feet, make it 25 to accommodate two-way traffic, but I believe 20 feet is sufficient.
It would be, cars coming in and out, I think if you added width to it, it's gonna add cost too, so.
Well, we'll consider once we get our admin team together on the logistics of what would this actually look like with egress and coming to the building and dropping off. If we determine that, hey, it's the only way it's gonna work, or the most convenient way to make a very inconvenient situation convenient, is to widen it, then we'll have those conversations, because again, the cost per, square foot of that is relatively low compared to any other option that we do have. So, the plan as we craft that is to put the road down in a manner that's gonna be the best suit for us to actually operate on. So, yeah.
So would that go where the temporary road is presently?
Currently is, yes.
Right on top of it.
Is there any more prep work that has to be done?
Just goes right on top.
Is this a cost to the district, or is this a cost to the Randalls?
That's a little bit to be determined, and if you wanted to speak to that, Dr. Ruffin.
Yep, so, any decisions that we've gotta make in terms of getting that road down, we've gotta make them, and make them with the intention of, we gotta do what we gotta do to get the road in to access the building for students and for teachers. So that probably means that instead of debating this topic and going back and forth and bearing the cost of it and then working everything else out from there.
Fair enough.
Mr. Wayne, did you have a question?
I just think that we probably need to explore and go ahead and get the cost to widen that thing with this mega deck, because 20 feet, in my opinion, is not gonna be enough. Especially, a car goes off the side because they were worried about the bus that was coming at them. How are we gonna get that car back on the top of that mega deck? I think we're better off just going ahead and saying we need to make this thing 25 or 30 feet wide and just flow that, direction.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. One of the things, and I think it was in our small group, we talked about that a little bit. I talked with Emmett about this, is the road itself, it's not a significant drop off on the side. I mean, it is, and it's relative to what car you're driving. So I'm in a truck. If I go off a little bit, I could probably just get back on. But there are certain spots, especially over that little dry creek, or it's wet most of the time. We were gonna put some very highly visible barriers up that they use for construction, those plastic ones. Put those up so they're very visible. And then we'd even talked about some of that orange fencing up all along that entire thing, just so people really see clearly the side of it. And even if we needed to, consider some lighting. But the good news is it's in the summertime, so we have sunlight, pick up, drop off. Won't have to deal with that, but some teacher who may want to stay a little bit late, having that, making sure that visibility, all those things are things that we need to consider. And we get a team together, we're going to look around every corner before that has to happen. But we can definitely explore the extra feet and get some quotes and stuff on that. I'm hoping we don't have to do that, but we're going to plan for it. So I didn't mean to get sidetracked on that, but I wanted to make sure you guys, I know you all had questions about that. I've got a few more things here with Lake Creek, just a quick overview of Lake Creek High School. This is the really great project. Everything's going well, and it's going perfectly, and we have plenty of road access to this site. So they're pretty much done with the brick and the laminate and the siding. In this picture, it's a little bit behind. I think they're pretty much done now. The roof material's going up. They're going to do some site work, pour some concrete, clean up some of the drainage and those areas there. It's ready to go. The inside itself, we'll look at in just a second, is really looking good. We actually have furniture delivery scheduled for July 1st for Creekside and July 12th, I believe, for Lake Creek. So it ended up being scheduled that way, and they already kind of started manufacturing that way. Looking back, we'd reverse the two, but it'll be fine. We'll be ready for them. This is the inside of Lake Creek. As you can see, the P-Lam's a little bit higher here, but the classrooms have carpet, whiteboards in. We'll come in behind them and put in the smart boards. This is some additional site work and the turf added right out the side of that entrance right there for students to hang out. Bathrooms are being updated. This is Montgomery High School, so that's it for Lake Creek. Montgomery High School, this summer is a lot of bathrooms, lighting, and roofing, and some concrete work being done outside. Next summer is even additional work. Walking through here and seeing what it was before and after in the short time that I've been here, the kids at Montgomery High School are going to be really proud walking into even some of the changes we've made this summer. It's going to be a really nice updating of that school. And it was already a beautiful school. I love trees. Apparently the city of Montgomery loves trees as well. But trees, just the whole landscape of that building and the inside of that building is going to look great as well too. So Montgomery High School's moving along great. Joe and David are on that site a lot. CTE, as you guys know, are steel's going up, concrete's being poured. All the concrete's coming back with great test results. It's coming out really strong. It's, again, being blessed with good weather helps in that situation. I mean, this one, it may not seem like it's as cool as a new school being built, but when you add new lighting to a school, it can impact it significantly as far as when you walk into that school. There's a big difference. So the LEDs are going in, and also the PA system to keep kids safe and make sure that we can communicate with classrooms is going in on those 3 campuses, and that's Madeley Ranch, Stewart Creek, and Lone Star. And then Keenan Elementary, like I mentioned before, ripping up the flooring that had the glue coming up. And then they're going to start putting down, they had to do some moisture testing this week. They're probably going to start laying probably this week, or later on this week. They'll be done with that project pretty quickly. And that's it. Any questions, comments?
Looks great.
Lots of great stuff. Thank you, Mr. Mansfield.
I do have one real quick.
Yes, sir.
The chiller that we are replacing at Oak Hills, when did we, obviously we got it ordered and all that kind of stuff. What is the time frame on that?
Do you know the time frame on that?
No, that was like a 36-week, so it's.
Okay.
June, July, probably more like, December, probably mid-year.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Brad. Appreciate it. Folks, the next 2 information items are kind of first readings. We have board committees. I've passed out to you, and in your board book is a listing that the officers and Dr. Ruffin have worked on in generating 4 board committees that we will kind of convene at a future date. We will set those, the membership of those at a future date. So you'll see that the board committees are really not meant to be a decision-making body. They're more of a flow of information body. They make sure that the board is working on these particular issues that you have on these committees and bringing that information back to the board should any information be needed. And so I will go ahead and for the sake of the community, go ahead and mention what these 4 committees are, and then we'll talk about our plan going forward for these. First, we have a school safety and security committee. We are required by law to have this one and to have this meeting. We've already met once, as I mentioned earlier. The tasks there are listed to serve as a review of the district's emergency plans and to seek recommendations for keeping the schools safe as possible. Next, Superintendent Evaluation Contract Board Self-Evaluation Committee. This really overlaps with the board goals that we discussed and passed just a few minutes ago. And so you can kind of read, that's fairly self-explanatory, but that's the committee that's going to guide the evaluation and discussions with the board reflection and the superintendent's evaluation. Next, Bond Oversight Committee, and the purpose of this committee is to serve as an established avenue for communication regarding bond projects. As we said earlier, making sure the community knows that we hit all of the projects on time, on target, as much as possible on time and on budget. And lastly, our Legislative Platform Committee, work that we've started in this area is to help Montgomery really refine its legislative priorities and advocate for the district's needs. So board members, moving forward, I've asked that you, if you have a burning interest to serve and or chair one of these committees, please go ahead and email me and we will get these set up with recommendations for that membership and the committee leadership at a future board meeting. Take an action item on that. Any questions? All right, so like I said, treating that one kind of as a first reading, we actually do have a real first reading. Action, or information item 8D, update 123, which affects both legal and local policies.
So this was a kind of a last-minute receive from TASB. We had been informed that update 123 was going to be getting to us. It got to us, what, Thursday, Friday, late last week? Thursday last week. And one of the reasons why we do a first reading. So for all of our trustees, our new trustees also, when TASB issues local updates, the board looks at the local policies that are encompassed within those. All of the legal policies, those are law. Those aren't ones that we can put our own ways of doing things and operating into. Those have to be adopted as they are written because they are law. The local ones are the ones that are do provide some personalization to the district. And so of the, I think on those 46 policies, there's only 14 of them in here that are local. A lot of the times you'll see very small revisions within these, whether it's just updating verbiage or updating assessment, the names of assessments. But this is a first reading. My team has been assigned. I think Dr. Busby might be the lucky one because I think a whole bunch of these fall in her category. And you have all of the, TASB provides a ton of information on the policies, explanatory notes behind them, things to consider. And so as you have time, review those. If any of those have specific questions, please get them to me and then we'll bring them back up prior to the adoption of them.
All right, any questions for Dr. Ruffin? All right, then that will come to an action item in the near future. And ladies and gentlemen, that is all of the information items that we have for this evening. The board will go into closed session as authorized under the Open Meetings Act for the reasons listed on our agenda, and we will return to adjourn in a moment. The board's returning from executive session. The time is 9:16, and this meeting is adjourned.
I'm going